So if you already have enough material wealth, I mean, what will your next purchase actually be?
That is honestly the ultimate economic question right now.
Right. I want you to really think about that for a second. If you, listening to this deep dive right now, already have the reliable car in the driveway, the comfortable home, the latest smartphone, a closet full of clothes you actually like.
Which is a lot of people, by the way.
Exactly. So what is the very next thing you willingly pull your credit card out for?
Because for a really long time, throughout most of human history, the answer to that question was incredibly simple. It was just, well, more.
Yeah, a second car.
Right, a second car, a significantly bigger house, a flashier, much more expensive watch. But the data we are seeing across all these different global sectors right now, it's showing us that this answer is completely fundamentally changing.
It really is. And that massive shift is the entire focal point of today's deep dive. We are on a mission to decode this invisible shift in how the world values things.
And how you, as a consumer, are being viewed by the market.
Exactly. We're looking at a huge stack of research today. We've got business strategy texts like Joe Pine's 2026 book, The Transformation Economy. We've got wealth reports from Knight Frank, global wellness trends, hospitality data, and even like satellite telecom forecasts from the Mobile World Congress.
Which sounds totally disconnected at first.
Right. But we aren't just reading you a bibliography here. We're connecting these dots because all these fields point to one massive realization. And that is, the era of simply accumulating goods to show off your status is ending.
It is dying out, and I think we need to set the philosophical foundation right here at the start.
Let's do it.
We are transitioning into an era where the ultimate luxury is personal growth.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The focus is no longer strictly on what we buy and put on a shelf. It's about who we are actively becoming. So we are moving away from selling products or even, selling memorable moments.
Right.
We are moving towards selling outcomes. The product is quite literally a new version of you.
A new version of you. That's a massive claim. So let's really unpack the mechanics of how we got here. Because to understand what people are buying next, we have to trace the evolutionary steps of economic value over, the last few decades.
We have to look at how businesses have historically charged us for things.
Yeah. And a great lens for this comes from Joe Pine. As we mentioned, his book, The Transformation Economy. He is basically the godfather of this concept. I mean, he and James Gilmore coined the term experience economy way back in 1999.
Right, the experience economy. And they laid out this progression of economic value that is absolutely essential to understand. It really makes sense of today's bizarre market dynamics.
So walk us through it.
So Pine argues that relentless competitive forces push economic offerings up a ladder. It starts at the very bottom, literally in the dirt with commodities.
Okay, so let's use coffee as the classic example here to ground this. At the commodity level, you are just extracting coffee beans from the earth.
Exactly. They are completely fungible. A bean is a bean.
Yeah.
You sell them in massive burlap sacks on the open market for like pennies per cup.
Right. But if you stay at that commodity level as a business, you are totally trapped.
You're forced to compete solely on having the absolute lowest price. It's a race to the bottom. So to avoid that, businesses move up the ladder to the next rung, which is making goods.
So you don't just sell raw beans, you roast them.
Right. You roast them, you put them in a beautifully designed package, you slap a brand name on it, and you sell a bag of coffee at the grocery store.
Now you have a tangible thing. You could charge a bit more.
Exactly. But then inevitably that market gets crowded too, so you move up the ladder again to delivering a service.
Okay, so now we are talking about the diner waitress pouring a hot cup of brewed coffee for you into a mug.
Yes. You are paying for the intangible activity of having it prepared and served. And you might pay, $2 or $3 for that cup.
And then came the massive breakthrough of the late 90s and 2000s, which was staging experiences.
The Starbucks model.
Right? When you walk into a premium coffee shop, you aren't just paying for the caffeinated liquid anymore.
Not at all. You are paying for the carefully curated ambiance.
The Italian-sounding cup sizes.
Yeah, the indie acoustic music in the background, the free Wi-Fi, the community vibe. It is a memorable event.
And suddenly you are willingly paying like $6, $7, or $8 for what is essentially the exact same few cents worth of extracted coffee beans that we started with in the dirt.
Exactly. And there is a brilliant insight from Pine here about the core mechanism driving this entire ladder. It's the constant threat of commoditization.
Okay, so whenever a tier becomes too common, businesses lose their pricing power.
Right. They become interchangeable in the eyes of the consumer. So the antidote to commoditization is customization.
Customizing a good turns it into a service.
Hmm.
Customizing a service turns it into an experience.
Yes. But if we connect this historical framework to consumer behavior today, we run into a massive new problem. The experience economy has been the gold standard for almost 3 decades.
Everyone knows how to do it now.
Right. Every retail clothing store is designed to look and smell like a boutique hotel.
Every local coffee shop has an Instagram-worthy neon sign,
Yeah.
the whole curated vibe. So what happens when the experience itself becomes commoditized?
It dies, or at least the quote-unquote mere experience loses all its premium value.
And our sources show this really crystallizing post-financial crisis and then rapidly accelerating in the years following the pandemic. People just started to feel like luxury brands and curated experiences were getting repetitive and, honestly, incredibly hollow.
There's a term for this. Erwan Ramberg, who was an analyst at HSBC, quoted in the Knight Frank Wealth Report, calls it greedflation.
Greedflation, such a perfect term.
It really is. Brands were hiking their prices about 50% or more for the exact same designer handbag or the exact same luxury hotel stay.
Just because they thought the market would bear it.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that consumers, especially younger ones, they didn't necessarily lose their interest in luxury or spending money. They lost interest in a broken value proposition.
Think about it. You spend $300 to stand in line for a highly curated, brightly colored pop-up museum, like one of those museum of ice cream type places.
Right. Just to take a photo for your social media?
Exactly. Takes 2 hours, you get the photo, and then you leave. It started to feel completely empty. Consumers realized that just accumulating superficial memories or just doing things to post online, it wasn't moving the needle on their happiness anymore.
Because the post-pandemic world created this profound hunger for meaningful, lasting change. I mean, we went through a collective trauma. Coming out of it, memorable entertainment simply wasn't enough to soothe that.
Which brings us to the 5th economic offering, the absolute top of Pine's ladder.
The transformation economy.
Yes.
If experiences are about staging memorable events that happen outside of you, around you, like a theater, show transformations are about guiding effectual outcomes that fundamentally change you on the inside.
I really want to highlight the verb difference there because I think it unlocks the whole concept for the listener.
Go for it.
You extract commodities, you make goods, you deliver services, you stage experiences, but you guide transformations.
Yes, exactly. And because the action changes, the terminology for the consumer has to change too.
Right.
Pine argues that in the transformation economy, the customer can no longer be viewed as just a buyer or a client.
They aren't even a guest like they were at a theme park.
No. The customer is now an aspirant.
An aspirant, meaning you are aspiring to achieve a specific, tangible outcome. You want to be healthier. You want to be wealthier, wiser. You are searching for a renewed sense of purpose.
Right. And the business's role completely shifts from being a provider to being a guide. They are supposed to help the aspirant navigate through a crucible of change.
Okay, so this all sounds highly philosophical, but I need to push back here. I really want to get into the actual mechanics of this because I can hear you, the listener, wondering how this actually works in the real world of commerce.
Okay, let's ground it.
Let's use a very everyday analogy. Let's say I buy a premium gym membership. In this framework, I am an aspirant. I aspire to lose 20 pounds, build muscle, get fit. I am buying the potential for transformation.
That's potential, yes.
But Pine says, and this is a direct quote, you are what you charge for.
Which is a profoundly disruptive statement for most modern businesses.
Exactly. Because if I pay a $150 monthly fee for that gym, I am literally just paying for access to the room. I'm paying for time on the treadmill and the right to lift their heavy metal objects. I am not actually paying for the transformation.
Because if you never show up, the gym still happily takes your money.
In fact, the entire traditional gym business model relies heavily on human laziness. They need a huge percentage of people to not show up, or the gym would be dangerously overcrowded.
Right.
So if human nature is inherently lazy, how do businesses actually shift to charging for the result rather than the treadmill time? How does a company protect itself from a customer who just, refuses to do the work?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. It's exactly where the rubber meets the road for the transformation economy. To truly be in the transformation business, you have to fundamentally rewrite your financial contracts.
Wow. Rewrite the contracts entirely.
Yeah. You have to align what you charge with the demonstrated outcomes the customer actually desires. And our sources highlight several emerging future business models specifically designed to achieve this alignment.
Okay, walk me through them. How does a business literally charge for an outcome?
So the most basic entry level is the outcome-based money-back guarantee.
Okay, pretty standard.
Right. If you don't achieve the agreed-upon measurable metric, let's say lowering your resting heart rate by X amount over 6 months, or achieving conversational fluency in a new language, you get a refund.
But that still leaves the business vulnerable to the lazy consumer.
Exactly. So the models get much more radical. Pine points to the rise of success fees.
Okay, how does a success fee work mechanically?
This is where a company gets paid a baseline fee just to cover basic operational costs. But the real profit, the success fee, is an amount established after the fact. It's based on a sliding scale of how much value was actually realized by the aspirant.
So if I hire a high-end personal trainer or a wellness clinic, I only pay them the big bucks if I actually hit my target weight and, crucially, keep it off for a predetermined amount of time.
Correct. But the most extreme and fascinating model is the income share agreement, or ISA.
And I guess
Okay, we actually see this already functioning in education, specifically in coding boot camps. But it's expanding into other transformational sectors rapidly. Under an ISA, you don't pay tuition up front. You pay nothing to take the course.
Really? Nothing.
Nothing up front. Instead, you sign a contract agreeing to pay a set percentage of your future salary for a fixed number of years. But only after you land a job in the tech industry making over a certain salary threshold.
Oh, wow. That completely flips the traditional risk paradigm.
Compl-
I mean, if I go to a traditional university, I pay them $100,000 whether I become a CEO or end up working a minimum wage job. They take my money and wipe their hands at me. But with an ISA, the business is taking on the risk of my failure.
Yes, because they firmly believe in their operational ability to guide you to success. If their curriculum is bad, or if they accept students who aren't willing to put in the effort, the business goes bankrupt.
So they have to be picky.
Highly picky. This model forces the business to rigorously screen their aspirants and provide incredibly high-touch support, which introduces a critical concept Pine calls the 3D helix journey of transformation.
The 3D helix, let's break that down.
So in the service or experience economy, the transaction is linear and finite.
You go in, you get a massage, you pay, it's over.
Right. You buy a ticket, you watch the movie, the credits roll, it ends. But a transformation is an ongoing, messy process. It is characterized by progression, regression, and eventually graduation.
Right, because human change is never a straight upward line.
Yeah.
You have setbacks.
Yeah.
Like you lose 5 pounds, you go on vacation, you gain 2 back.
Precisely. The 3D helix represents a long-term, tightly bound commitment between the business and the aspirant. It spirals upward over time. You achieve a new baseline of health or knowledge. Maybe you fall back a little, you regress.
Yeah.
But because the business's revenue is tied to your ultimate success, the guide is financially incentivized to intervene. They reach out, they correct your course, and you spiral up again to a higher plane of flourishing.
Which requires a radically different, highly proactive operational infrastructure to maintain that relationship over months or years.
Absolutely.
So if we step back, what does this all mean for how we actually live our lives?
Mm-hmm.
If we're transitioning into a society of aspirants desperately looking for deep transformation, it makes sense that the most obvious place we seek that change is when we intentionally break out of our daily routines.
Yeah.
Exactly. If we want to change who we are, we often have to change where we are. So let's look at how global travel is morphing to meet this demand. Because the travel industry is usually the canary in the coal mine for broader consumer trends.
It absolutely is. And the shift happening in travel right now is incredibly stark. It's moving away from the logistical question of, where are we going?
So what do we desperately need from this trip?
Yes, the deeply psychological question.
The industry is calling it the whycation. That's the explicit term coming right out of the Hilton 2026 Trends Report. The underlying purpose comes before the geographical place.
And if we look deeply at the data from Hilton, and this is a massive data set, they surveyed over 14,000 travelers across 14 different countries, the dominant, overwhelming emotion driving travel planning right now isn't a sense of adventure.
It's not about seeing famous monuments.
No, it is exhaustion, it is profound burnout and severe digital fatigue.
There are some statistics in this report that actually made me stop and reread them because they sound almost tragic.
They really do.
The report notes that 41% of British travelers are actively looking for moments of total solitude even when they're traveling with their own families.
Which is wild.
And 35% of global travelers are intentionally adding solo days before or after a family vacation, just to decompress from the stress of being around their loved ones.
What's fascinating here is how the hospitality industry is responding to this sheer exhaustion. They are noting the rise of what is being termed hushpitality.
Hushpitality, I love that term so much.
It is the intense craving for quiet. In a hyper-connected, constantly vibrating world where your phone is always notifying you of an email or a news alert, true silence and absolute disconnection have become the ultimate premium luxuries.
We see this heavily in corporate travel, too.
Oh, massively.
On work trips, 21% of people now explicitly prioritize sleep over socializing with their colleagues. The era of the work hard, play hard business trip is dying.
Completely dying. They don't want the fancy client dinner at the loud, clinking steakhouse where they have to perform socially for another 3 hours.
No. They want to go to their room, order room service, put on an eye mask, and not speak a single word to another human being until morning.
And this ties perfectly back into the transformation economy. The specific transformation being sought by the everyday traveler here is a total mental and physiological reset. It's not about packing an itinerary with 10 different sightseeing stops.
Right. It's about creating a sterile, quiet space for nervous system healing.
But that's the everyday consumer dealing with the daily grind. Let's look at the absolute apex of global wealth.
Yes, let's talk about the billionaires, because the Knight Frank Wealth Report outlines how this exact same craving for transformation is manifesting among ultra-high net worth individuals, or UHNWIs.
And their behavior is reshaping entire industries.
Absolutely.
First, we really have to grasp the sheer scale of wealth creation right now because it is staggering. Knight Frank's modeling reveals that 89 people cross the $30 million net worth threshold every single day.
Think about that. 89 people wake up or sell a business or inherit assets and become ultra-wealthy every single day.
It's a massive, constant influx of fresh capital into the luxury market. And their consumer behavior is completely rewriting the geography of real estate and travel.
How so?
Well, historically, if you made your first $50 million, the ultimate status symbol was the massive primary estate.
You bought the sprawling English manor. Or the enormous compound in Beverly Hills. You bought a literal castle.
Exactly. But today's immense wealth is increasingly hypermobile.
The report calls it the dip-in, dip-out lifestyle.
Yes. Because of rising global tax pressures, unpredictable geopolitical risks, and frictionless technology that allows a CEO to run a global enterprise from a laptop anywhere on Earth.
Right, they don't need to be anchored.
No, these individuals actively do not want to be tied down to one massive, cumbersome property. They want to operate across multiple global jurisdictions fluidly.
The Knight Frank report had a brilliant quote from Andrew Hay. He's their former global head of residential property. He noted that right after the 2008 financial crisis, suddenly 100 rich people wanted 5 houses each.
Which was the trend then, yeah.
But now, even that model is shifting dramatically. Buyers who previously would have dropped $50 million on a massive primary residence in London are now choosing to spend $15 million on a highly serviced, turnkey, bolt-hole apartment.
Because they prioritize presence over residence.
Yes.
When they land in a city on a Tuesday morning, they want the refrigerator already stocked with their specific dietary requirements. They want the heating set to exactly 70 degrees.
And they want the concierge waiting in the lobby.
Exactly. They absolutely do not want the friction of employing and managing full-time domestic staff or, dealing with a leaky roof on a mega mansion.
Which is driving a massive surge in super prime rentals and fractional ownership. And I think this is a trend that everyday people can actually understand perfectly.
How so?
Because it's the exact same psychology as someone using a service like Rent the Runway for designer clothes or leasing a car instead of buying it. We are all moving from ownership to access.
Ah, yes. It's just scaled up to the billionaire level.
Exactly. We are seeing a huge boom in fractional ownership of private jets. The data shows a record 47% of first-time private jet flyers are under the age of 45.
That's a huge demographic shift.
Right. They are buying the access to the jet for 50 hours a year. They aren't buying the depreciating asset of the plane itself. And the exact same shift is happening with super yachts.
This represents a crucial sociological shift among the wealthy. It's the move from conspicuous consumption to conspicuous taste and exceptional access.
Conspicuous taste.
Yeah. Buying a massive yacht just to moor it in Monaco and show off your wealth is increasingly considered a bit gauche.
A bit old money, right?
Very old money, or uninspired.
Hmm.
True, modern luxury is about buying your way into an environment that entirely filters out the noise. It rigorously curates your community and aligns with your personal transformative purpose.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, and I want to challenge this concept of luxury a bit.
Go.
Based on what you're saying, it sounds like luxury used to be about lying on a white sand beach in St. Tropez, drinking champagne and doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
But now, it's almost about doing hard work. Look at the specific example highlighted in the Knight Frank report of Discover Collection's Ras Amud retreat in Oman.
Oh, yes. It's a fascinating, highly indicative project. It's located on the Musandam Peninsula.
Right. It's this incredibly remote, stark, rocky, mountainous landscape. And instead of sitting by an infinity pool getting a tan, the members who pay exorbitant fees to go there are expected to learn from resident marine biologists.
They work intensively with nutritionists.
Yes, or they join teams of geologists exploring the rugged terrain. So my question is, if human nature is lazy, why are the wealthiest people on Earth paying top dollar for what essentially sounds like high-end, physically demanding summer school?
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but it actually aligns perfectly with the absolute top rung of Pine's economic ladder.
Oh.
When you have the financial resources to buy any comfort on Earth, endless comfort quickly becomes incredibly boring. The transformation economy actually demands friction. It requires effort. These elite consumers are desperately seeking self-actualization, the desire to reach their full human potential, and you simply cannot buy self-actualization off a shelf at a boutique.
You have to actively participate in it. You have to sweat for it.
Precisely. So status is now tied to your personal contribution and your acquired knowledge, not just your passive ability to access expensive things.
Okay, think about the social dynamics of that. If you were at a high-end dinner party, the person who just bought a new Ferrari is far less interesting to talk to than the person who just spent 2 exhausting weeks tracking endangered wildlife with expert conservationists in a remote biosphere.
Exactly. The social currency of the elite has fundamentally changed from what you own to how you have evolved as a human being.
That makes total sense. So we've seen how people are traveling to transform their minds, to escape the digital noise, to learn complex new things in rugged environments. But the ultimate absolute peak manifestation of the transformation economy isn't just changing your mindset.
No, it is transforming the human body itself.
The quest for longevity.
Yes.
If you have all the money in the world, the only thing you truly want to buy is more time. Let's look at the Julius Baer data. They point out that the global population over the age of 65 is going to double in the next 30 years.
We have a rapidly aging world.
And the global wellness economy is now estimated to be worth $6 trillion. And within that massive pie, the sector focused purely on longevity, on literally fighting the aging process, is already worth $610 billion.
And we have to pause here. We need to clearly define a crucial medical and philosophical difference because it frames exactly what these longevity companies are actually selling. We are no longer talking about extending lifespan.
Right. Lifespan is a simple metric. It is just the total number of years you are breathing before your heart stops.
Exactly. What the transformation economy is actively selling is health span.
Health span.
Health span is the specific number of years you live healthy, highly active, and free from serious cognitive or physical decline. It is the profound difference between spending your last decade of life frail and confined to a medical bed versus spending your last decade hiking mountains and playing on the floor with your great-grandchildren.
And the specific technology being deployed right now to achieve this extended health span is straight out of a science fiction novel. The Global Wellness Summit 2025 Trends Report refers to this movement as augmented biology.
Augmented biology is the radical shift from simply sustaining health like taking a multivitamin and going for a jog, to actively optimizing and chemically extending human life through incredibly advanced diagnostics.
Let's look at Clinique La Prairie as the prime example of this trend. They are a legendary Swiss wellness brand, and they are currently expanding aggressively into Asia and the Middle East. They're opening massive facilities in places like Anji, China, Phuket, Thailand, and Ala in Saudi Arabia.
Huge expansions.
And I want to be very clear for you listening. These are not just luxury spas with nice cucumber water and deep tissue massages.
Not at all. The diagnostic methods they are using are deeply, rigorously medical.
Yes.
When an aspirant checks into one of these clinics, they don't just ask about your diet. They put you through comprehensive blood panels, full DNA sequencing, epigenetic profiling, and metabolomics.
Okay, wait, before we move on, metabolomics. Epigenetic
I
profiling.
know,
That
it's
sounds
smooth.
incredibly dense. Let's act as proxies for the audience here. Explain these to me like I'm 5 years old. What actually is epigenetic profiling, and what on earth are metabolomics?
Absolutely. It's vital to understand the mechanics here. Think of your DNA, your genetics, as the hardware of a computer.
Okay, hardware.
You are born with it, and it doesn't really change. That's why DNA testing alone only tells you what diseases you might be prone to. Epigenetics, however, is the software.
Software. Got it.
Epigenetic profiling looks at how your specific daily behaviors, your diet, your stress levels, and your environment are actively turning certain genes on or off. It measures how fast you are biologically aging compared to your chronological age.
So my DNA says I have a risk for heart disease, but my epigenetics tells the doctor if my current stressful job is actually triggering that heart disease right now.
Exactly. And metabolomics takes it a step further. If epigenetics is the software, metabolomics is the exhaust coming out of the car's tailpipe.
The exhaust.
Yeah, it is the real-time, highly detailed measurement of all the tiny chemical byproducts, metabolites, that your cells produce as they process food, fight off stress, or clear out toxins. By looking at that chemical exhaust, doctors can see exactly how efficiently your cells are currently functioning.
That is incredible. And the sources mention they are using all this data specifically to reduce something called oxidative stress. Give me the, like, I'm 5 on that too.
Oxidative stress is essentially rust. Yeah, when your body processes oxygen to create energy, it creates unstable molecules called free radicals. If you have too many of them, they bounce around and damage your cells. It's exactly like a car rusting over time.
So what do these clinics do about it?
These clinics are designing highly customized regenerative therapies, precision medications, and hyper-specific nutritional plans engineered to clean up that rust. They target the root causes of cellular aging. They're treating aging not as an inevitable fact of life, but as a measurable, modifiable medical condition.
And what I find totally wild is how this deeply clinical sci-fi medicine is spilling over from isolated remote wellness clinics right into everyday social spaces in major cities.
Oh, the urban wellness boom, yes.
The evolution of the private members club is the perfect case study for this. Look at the data on a place called Tramp in Mayfair, London.
Tramp is a genuinely legendary venue in British nightlife culture.
Legendary for all the wrong, or depending on who you ask, maybe right reasons.
Very true.
Since the late 60s, it was famous for absolute, unbridled rock and roll excess. This is the club where Keith Moon, the notoriously wild drummer for The Who, was supposedly banned after he swung from and smashed a crystal chandelier.
It was the absolute epicenter of hedonistic, champagne-soaked nightlife.
But look at the data on what that exact space has become today.
It's completely different.
It has been completely gutted and reborn as Tramp Health in Grosvenor Square. They took a club globally known for destroying your liver and turned it into a 16,000 square foot facility entirely dedicated to optimizing your biology.
It's amazing.
They have a massive dedicated breathwork space. They have state-of-the-art well-being infrastructure.
If we analyze the sociology behind this pivot, it is the absolute purest illustration of the shift from the experience economy to the transformation economy.
Hedonism is officially out.
Optimization is in.
You don't go to the club at midnight to get wasted on martinis anymore. You go to the club at 7 a.m. to get your VO2 max tested.
Which, for those who don't know, is a grueling test on a treadmill hooked up to a mask that measures exactly how efficiently your body uses oxygen.
Right. And then you sit in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber with your friends to speed up your cellular recovery.
Exactly. What Tramp Health is providing is a social ecosystem designed entirely around preventative health. Because, returning to Pine's theory of the transformation economy, profound change rarely happens in isolation.
It requires an environment that actively supports and reinforces the change.
Yes. By embedding high-tech wellness into a private, exclusive social club, you surround the aspirant with peers who are aggressively pursuing the exact same longevity goals.
It's essentially highly monetized peer pressure for longevity. I mean, if all your wealthy friends are comparing their epigenetic aging scores instead of their car collections, you are highly motivated to stay on the treadmill.
In a way, yes, it makes that 3D helix journey of progression, regression, and graduation much more sustainable when your entire social circle is involved in it and holding you accountable.
But delivering these highly personalized, deeply medical, profoundly data-driven transformations, whether it's at a longevity clinic in the Saudi Arabian desert or on a remote rocky mountaintop in Oman learning about geology, or in a high-tech breathing room in Mayfair, It requires an entirely new, incredibly robust technological and business infrastructure.
You can't just rely on good intentions.
No. Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle,
Mm.
the friction and the tech.
There is a fascinating, almost poetic paradox at the heart of the transformation economy regarding the role of technology.
Right, because usually in modern consumerism, we think of technology's ultimate noble goal as removing friction.
Making things easy.
Exactly. We want one-click shopping on Amazon. We
Mhm.
want seamless contactless check-in at the airport. We want invisible payments where we just walk out of the grocery store and our card is charged.
Mm.
The tech industry has spent 2 decades trying to make everything effortless.
But Joe Pine argues something totally counterintuitive to that Silicon Valley mindset. He states that in the business of transformation, eliminating human contact and making things too easy is a surefire way to commoditize yourself.
Because if everything is seamless, automated, and effortless, it's completely forgettable. It leaves no mark on the psyche.
Precisely. In the transformation economy, the aspirant actually craves friction.
They are paying a premium specifically for the struggle.
Yes, but it has to be the right kind of friction.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah.
They don't want the friction of waiting on hold for 45 minutes with a robotic customer service menu.
No, definitely not. They want the friction of deep, challenging, highly empathetic human interaction. Like, if you are going to a retreat to undergo deep psychological work, perhaps using complex frameworks like internal family systems or Jungian depth psychology.
Wait, pause again. Jungian depth psychology and internal family systems. Let's break those down briefly so we know what kind of mental friction we are talking about.
Sure, so Jungian depth psychology is about confronting the unconscious parts of your mind.
Like the shadow self.
Exactly, the dark, repressed emotions you hide from the world. Internal family systems, or IFS, is a modern therapeutic model that posits that our mind isn't one single entity. It's made up of different parts or subpersonalities that often fight with each other.
Like an inner critic fighting with an inner wounded child.
Right, so untangling those warring parts of your subconscious or facing your darkest repressed fears is incredibly exhausting, high-friction emotional work.
It requires struggle, intense vulnerability, and a highly skilled, deeply empathetic human guide to navigate it with you safely. You cannot automate that with an app.
No. Or consider the physical friction of the adventure travel trends we saw in the Adventure Travel Trade Association snapshot.
Yeah.
People actively want off-the-beaten-track itineraries. They want to be physically challenged by nature.
So the fundamental question becomes, what is the actual role of multi-billion-dollar technology if the true value of the product lies in human struggle and friction?
In the transformation economy, technology must become the invisible enabler. It has to move completely to the background. We looked at a fascinating McKinsey report stemming from the Mobile World Congress, the MWC, in 2025, and the massive tech developments they forecast are perfectly aligning with this specific need.
What's the biggest takeaway there?
The most striking example in the report is the massive global push toward non-terrestrial networks, or NTNs.
Which is telecom jargon for direct-to-device satellite connectivity. It means your normal smartphone connecting directly to a satellite in space instead of a cell tower down the street.
Correct. The financial numbers from MWC 2025 on this are staggering. There is a specific 10 billion euro deal between the European Commission and the SpaceRise Consortium to build out this infrastructure. McKinsey notes that 60% of the global mobile subscriber base is now served by telecom operators who have satellite agreements actively in place.
So let's connect this dry telecom data to the luxury and transformation trends we've been discussing. It means that going completely off the grid to a remote, high-friction destination, which is the number 2 and 3 top trends in adventure travel right now, is suddenly much safer and more commercially viable.
Exactly. You can travel to the absolute ends of the Earth, to the most rugged mountains in Oman or a remote island in the Pacific, to find that necessary friction, solitude, and psychological challenge. But the invisible, frictionless safety net of satellite connectivity is always there, hovering above you.
If you break your leg, or if you need an emergency medical evacuation, the tech is there to save you.
Yes, it removes the fatal friction, allowing you to safely engage in the transformative friction.
And the same McKinsey report talks heavily about the evolution of AI agents. We aren't just talking about AI being used as annoying customer service chatbots anymore. AI is moving deep into operational efficiency.
It's actively managing the global network, predicting when a machine needs maintenance before it breaks, seamlessly handling the complex background logistics of these global travel and wellness companies.
This is crucial for the business model. If AI handles all the mundane background logistics flawlessly, making the operational side of the business truly frictionless, it frees up the most valuable asset the company has.
Human capital.
Yes, I love this, and I want to use an analogy here. It is exactly like a massive theatrical stage production. Think about it. The technology, the AI agents predicting supply chains, the satellite networks beaming data.
Oh.
They are the stage crew dressed all in black.
Oh, that's a perfect structural analogy.
Right. They're moving the heavy props silently in the dark. They are managing the complex lighting rigs. They're making sure the building doesn't burn down. You, the audience, never see them.
And because that invisible crew is handling all of the logistics flawlessly, the humans, the longevity doctors, the mountain guides, the deep psychology therapists, the personal trainers can be the lead actors standing in the spotlight.
They can dedicate 100% of their emotional and physical energy to actively guiding the aspirant through the high-friction, deeply transformational work,
Yeah.
because they aren't worried about whether the hotel booking went through or if the medical supplies arrived.
And importantly, that human guidance cannot end when the curtain falls on the trip. This is perhaps the biggest operational shift required by the transformation economy.
What's that?
Pine points out that the biggest missing ingredient in current experience design is the offboarding process and the long-term follow-through.
Right, because let's go back to our examples. If I go to that high-tech longevity clinic in China for 2 weeks, I get my DNA sequenced, I get my metabolomics analyzed, I optimize my diet, and I leave feeling amazing and biologically younger.
But then you go back to your stressful corporate job in New York.
Exactly. And within a week, I immediately start eating junk food, sleeping 4 hours a night and stressing out. The transformation fundamentally failed. The rust comes back.
And remember the financial mechanics we discussed earlier. If the business model is based on charging for outcomes, like those success fees or income share agreements, the business actually loses money if you revert to your old unhealthy habits.
So they are deeply financially incentivized to stay actively involved in your life long after you leave the clinic.
Exactly. To truly charge for transformations, businesses must bridge the treacherous gap between a temporary high, the 2-week vacation, the expensive clinic visit, and a permanent, sustainable life change. The guide must constantly check in with the aspirant.
And the technology we just discussed, the ubiquitous satellite connectivity, the AI tracking systems, the wearable health monitors sending real-time biometric data that allows the guide to maintain that 3D helix journey from afar.
They can monitor your sleep data from halfway across the world and actively intervene with a phone call or a new protocol the moment they see you beginning to regress.
Wow. So let's take a deep breath, step back, and look at the massive journey we've just taken over this deep dive.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We started with a simple cup of coffee to understand the historical evolution of how businesses price things. We moved through the greedy commoditization and the eventual death of the experience economy. And we witnessed the rise of the aspirant, a consumer desperately looking for deep, meaningful internal change.
We saw how that desperate desire is entirely reshaping global travel, pushing exhausted people toward the total silence of hospitality and remote, physically demanding educational retreats.
We looked at the hypermobile, ultra-wealthy, who are rapidly ditching massive, cumbersome estates for the frictionless access of fractional jets and highly curated, purpose-driven communities.
We dove deep into the mechanics of the $610 billion longevity market, where people are using epigenetic software and metabolomic exhaust data to literally buy themselves more healthy, active years on Earth.
And finally, we saw how invisible satellite networks and operational AI are quietly building the necessary infrastructure to make all of this biologically and logistically possible.
Which means we have conclusively answered the core question we posed to the listener at the very beginning of this deep dive. When you finally have enough material stuff, what do you buy next?
The data says you buy yourself. You buy a better, longer-lasting, far more fulfilled version of you.
It is an incredible, highly optimistic vision of where the global economy and human aspiration are heading. It suggests a future where businesses are financially aligned with making us healthier and happier. But there is a profound philosophical shadow to all of this.
I knew you were going to drop a heavy one on us to close this out. Let's hear it.
Consider this deeply. If the transformation economy successfully touches every single aspect of our lives, if every single vacation has to be a vacation meant to heal our burnt-out nervous systems,
If every private club membership is rigorously designed to optimize our VO2 max and our epigenetic age,
if every single purchase is carefully calculated to transform us and make us somehow better, When do we ever give ourselves permission to simply be?
Oh, wow. That is,
Yeah, when is enough? Enough. Exactly. Are we at risk of turning our very identities, our very biological lives, into endless, exhausting, highly monetized renovation projects? If the finish line of self-actualization is constantly moving further away, relentlessly driven by an economy that profits immensely from our unending desire to transform, do we ever actually arrive? Do we ever get to rest?
that is a profoundly haunting thought to leave on. The consumer treadmill doesn't actually disappear. It just gets replaced by a much more expensive, biologically and spiritually demanding treadmill. I want you, the listener, to really mull that over as you go about your day. Look closely at your own life this week. Look at the specific subscriptions you are paying for, the trips you are meticulously planning, the way you choose to spend your precious free time. Are you simply buying an experience, or are you paying a massive premium to someone to constantly renovate your identity? And perhaps more importantly, are you exhausted yet? Thank you for joining us on this journey. We will see you on the next deep dive.